Matching the hatch, lake style.
Big in.
Oh yeah.
That's a big smallie. You know, you hear the term matching the hatch in fly fishing all the time. And fly fishermen are religious about, okay, the caddis flies are hatching off, stone flies, whatever, and the trout are eating them. So I'm gonna pick something out of my box that's as close as possible to match that hatch as closely as they can. Lake fishermen, big rivers, reservoirs, a lot of people don't think about the forage base that they're dealing with. And I try to pay attention to every little thing I can to match my lures and my presentations as closely as possible, really no matter what I'm fishing. And so I look at it in a couple different categories, right? The big one is minnows. Everywhere you fish has minnows, and probably every kind of fish that you want to catch eats minnows. You've got crayfish in a lot of bodies of water. You have frogs in a lot of different places. And you might have even like perch minnows or game fish minnows, because we think about minnows, we think about shiners, fatheads, crappie minnows, but those fish out there, those walleyes, they don't discriminate. If there's a school of little tiny perch swimming by, they're gonna eat them. And so there's different ways to kind of figure this out, right? I've got a bucket of these leopard frogs here that were tadpoles a couple months ago, and I'm not gonna use them for bait, but the size of them tells you a lot about what, if I wanted to go out here and catch some largemouth, of what kind of frog and maybe what color of frog bait I should throw. If you think about minnows, you know, you might be at the boat landing and look as you're putting your boat in and see that little school of perch, or you might see a ball of shiner rolling off of it a little bit. When you pay attention to that stuff, it tells you a couple things. It tells you, A, what the fish are probably eating in that neighborhood, and B, how you should pick lures to match them. There's one, nice fish. Now I would say like the biggest part of this is just to pay attention to your surroundings. Quite often we go out fishing and we think, all right, well, I know this lake and I know how to catch walleyes, so I'm gonna go drag a Lindy rig on the bottom with a leech or something like that. But those walleyes might be on a totally different kind of bite. And so you might go out and fish your favorite spots and be like, well, they're not eating today. I know they gotta be here because this is my favorite spot, when really the wind's been blowing out of the east, pushing balls of shiners up against shore, and the walleyes you're trying to catch in 12, 15 feet of water are now in 3 to 6 feet of water, chasing bait fish around in cabbage. And the more you're out there and just pay attention to every little detail, like I've been fishing a lot of frog fishing lately for largemouth, and that bite gets really good when I see a lot of dragonflies flying and I start to hear those sunfish popping, because I know the fish are starting to look up, and when that sun comes out and the insect life gets going, all of a sudden that bite changes. So I might not have been able to get a fish on a frog 2 hours earlier when it was cooler and not sunny and the dragonflies and frogs weren't moving around. Those conditions change and all of a sudden you hear that and you go, okay, now I know how to match that hatch, so to speak. Frog fishing, it's the most fun you're gonna have in a boat. This is just general good fishing advice, and a lot of people don't even understand that this is going on with good fishermen, where they're just taking those little clues. You know, maybe you're fighting that smallie that you catch on a swimming jig and it throws up a shiner that it just ate, or you're sitting there and you see that ball of minnows go bailing out of the water because the northern took off after them. Those are huge clues there. And a lot of the best fishermen I know and the fishermen that I fish with, they get really good because they can read the situation, the watercolor, various, the weather, whatever, but also what's the forage base? Are the crayfish in your lake all pretty red and rusty, or are they a different color? Are they brown, gray, whatever? That kind of stuff can matter, especially when you're dealing with a, maybe a cold front bite or just sort of a negative or neutral bite. But it can also just be the way to have just a way better day, even when the fishing could be really good. To matching those little perch and throwing a crankbait instead of dragging that leech might get you a limit of walleyes. So pay attention when you get on the water, to what the lake or the river or the reservoir shows you, because that forage base is out there and you know the fish you're targeting are paying attention to it, so you should pay attention to it too.